Greenland. I want to talk to you or ask you questions about the new economic coercion that Mr. Trump is directing at our next door neighbor, as well as 7 European allies and Britain. He's talking about 10% tariffs until he's allowed to buy Greenland on 8 countries, and they're going to go up to 25% in June. So my question is, how can Canada accept this? What are you going to do about it, including adding to the military presence in Greenland? And what are you going to tell Mr. Trump? What's your message to Mr. Trump about this economic coercion if you meet him in Davos?
Thank you for this very precise questions. It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation, to be absolutely clear. We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is. I might add, to bring it to the current discussion today, as part of the discussions the Emir and I had about a series of situations which would have a common element, which is threats to or compromising territorial integrity and sovereignty, Ukraine being a very prominent example. But I'll bring it back now to Greenland. So we will always support that. The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland are for Greenland and Denmark to decide. And the security of Greenland, security is first and foremost for them.
Donald Trump's latest threats revolve around Greenland, proposing tariffs on European countries if they do not support the idea of selling Greenland to the United States, then threatening further tariff increases if they side with Denmark, using economic punishment to force a territorial outcome. None of this is diplomacy, it is outright coercion, and Mark Carney addressed the issue exactly for what it is. When asked about Trump's remarks, he did not downplay their seriousness, nor did he treat them as idle talk. He did not pretend this was normal. He called it by its proper name, an escalation. In diplomatic language, that choice of words carries enormous weight. It signals risk. It signals instability. It indicates that a leader has crossed the line between pressure and provocation. And that is precisely what Trump has done. Carney made it clear that Greenland's future is not something Washington has the right to decide, nor can it be forced through tariffs or economic threats. He stressed that Greenland's future belongs solely to the people of Greenland and to Denmark. This was a direct rejection of Trump's argument. No agreement can be formed under pressure. National borders cannot be bought and sold. Economic blackmail cannot be disguised as negotiation. And by stating this publicly from Qatar, Carney ensured that this was no longer a quiet backstage disagreement. It was a message sent to the entire world. Then he went a step further. He placed Greenland's security squarely within the NATO framework, emphasizing that Canada has been and continues to work closely with European and Nordic partners, with NATO leadership, and with the Prime Minister of Greenland. This was not performative language, it reflected real alignment. And when asked what he would say if he had to speak directly to Donald Trump, Carney's answer was blunt: "Everything I've just said." At that moment, the narrative shifted entirely, because what Mark Carney did here was not merely answer a press question. He drew a clear line by publicly calling Trump's threats toward Greenland an escalation, without hedging, without offering excuses. Canada ended the pretense that this was normal diplomatic behavior. And that matters greatly. In geopolitics, silence is often interpreted as acceptance. Ambiguity is often seen as tolerance. Carney chose neither. This was not a token rebuttal. It was Canada formally rejecting the idea that economic threats can be used to force border changes or compel sovereign nations to submit. European leaders have begun to speak out. NATO partners have also voiced concern. Carney did not stand in the middle to preserve balance. He stood with them. And in doing so, he shifted the balance of power. From this point forward, Trump is no longer facing isolated reactions or quiet disagreements behind closed doors. He is confronting a coordinated front, one prepared to say openly that his tactics are dangerous, destabilizing, and unacceptable. That is not escalation by Canada. It is the setting of limits on Trump. And once a leader is placed within such constraints, the rules of the game change.
So let's talk about this shift in Canada and Qatar's relationship from close friends to strategic partners. What does this all signal to you?
It signals to me that Mark Carney is taking very seriously what's happening south of the border. It would have been easy in the first few months to dismiss Trump's temper tantrums and his tariffs, but we now see that the great disruptor that is Donald Trump is having such an effect on the world stage that the European Union is coming together for a strategic meeting to figure out how to deal with Trump's threat to take Greenland, to steal a part of another NATO country. So it is that serious. I think that Canada is playing its cards well. We've got to be careful with the Americans on these issues. A half a dozen NATO countries like France and Sweden and Norway are sending troops almost symbolically into Greenland, saying this is not on. Trump is, of course, threatening them with new tariffs. He often says that, poof, you've got a new tariff, but actually nothing ever comes of it. So we'll see whether there actually is anything or whether the old rule of taco, Trump always chickens out, whether that applies. Now, we're going to see what happens in Davos, Switzerland, because there are issues of governance concerning the whole world that take place there.
Take a clear look at what unfolded today, because this was not a single, isolated announcement. In reality, two major shifts occurred simultaneously. Mark Carney confirmed that Qatar has committed strategic capital to Canada's nation-building projects, its infrastructure, energy sector, and long-term economic capacity. This is not speculative money. It is not symbolic rhetoric. It is real capital, real projects, faster timelines, earlier industrial development, and real jobs being created. Another global power has just invested in Canada's future, only days after China. And Qatar is no minor partner. It is a global financial hub with one of the most powerful sovereign wealth funds in the world. Carney did not go there for photo opportunities. He went to lock in long-term strategic investment, both public and private, across energy, infrastructure, defense cooperation, and artificial intelligence. As Carney himself put it, Canada and Qatar are no longer merely diplomatic friends. They are now strategic partners. That phrase was used deliberately because strategic partners do not panic when tariffs appear. They plan around that reality. What makes the message Carney sent to Donald Trump different this time is not the wording, but the backing behind it. A year ago, such a statement might have been brushed aside. Not now, because Carney is no longer speaking from the margins. He is speaking from the center of a rapidly forming global network. Canada now has closer ties with Europe, where leaders have openly rejected Trump's pressure over Greenland. It has renewed and strengthened relations with China, a global economic power. And now, with Qatar, Canada has attracted the attention and capital of one of the world's most influential investor states. That changes the entire equation. When Mark Carney speaks now, it is no longer just Canada's voice. It is Canada aligned with Europe on sovereignty, aligned with China on trade, aligned with Gulf states on capital and long-term investment. That is what gives his words real weight, and global leaders are responding accordingly. They are no longer asking whether Canada will hold its ground. They are watching Carney's position because it signals where serious, stable partners are choosing to stand. That is what troubles Donald Trump the most. Not the criticism itself, but the timing. Trump is accustomed to applying bilateral pressure one country at a time. Carney is building multilateral gravity. And when gravity shifts, threats lose their force. That is the concern now spreading through Washington. The issue is not that Canada disagrees with Trump. It is that Canada no longer needs to accommodate him. And that is a form of lost influence Trump has never handled well. Nothing unfolding here is accidental. Trump's threats do not strengthen American leadership. They fragment it. They push allies closer together. They are precisely what has forced reliable partners like Canada to diversify. Carney did not create this situation. He is responding to it calmly, strategically, and with the backing of allies. That is why this is politically damaging for Trump, because it exposes a simple truth. The world is not turning against the United States. It is reacting to instability under